And we are live. Hey, what's up, everybody? How you doing? It's your man Jay Kiv here with Leif Taylor, just having our regular, consistent conversation about all things health, wealth, relationships, and happiness, and everything in between. Just talking about a little of this and a little of that, pop culture, sports, you name it, we'll touch on it. Just because it's life, and we like to hit on all things that involves life. What's up with you today, Leif? Everything good? I see you up on the controls, getting everything shared out for us.
Oh yeah. You might want to change your interruption settings because some keeps buzzing, and I think it's you.
Oh man.
Don't worry about it.
Uh,
Don't worry about it. We'll just live with the buzz.
you,
If,
you realize who you were talking to, right?
yeah, I was like, Kevin go hit something, and it's like my computer will turn off.
Your lights in the neighborhood lights will
Exactly.
turn off
Like
over
what?
there.
Yeah.
Man, how
Never
do
mind.
you do that? Like, I
Never
don't
mind.
know, man. It's
We
just who it
good.
is.
Yeah, we good.
Hey, Leif, today just want to have a conversation about being grateful and the importance of cultivating gratefulness in your life and how to do that. And just thinking about some of the things that's going on in my world and in the world in general. Just thinking about how just keeping up with news and stuff, and just seeing how things are going, and then thinking about my life. I just find it something that is of the utmost of importance is learning how to cultivate contentment or happiness in your life, no matter what, whether you have a lot or whether you have a moment where you have a little bit, or whether you have a moment where you're up or whether you have a moment where you're down. It's important to learn how to cultivate the art, the science of being content, meaning contentment, meaning being satisfied to where you don't need anymore. That's what contentment, that's what I mean when I say contentment versus pleasure, um, where you can never have enough. And living in the world today, it seems like everything's cultivated in a manner or given to you in a way that you always are having to seek more in order to achieve a certain level of happiness or a certain level of pleasure. Versus when you're content, it doesn't matter what it's, no matter what's going on, you're able to say, you know what, I'm satisfied. I don't need any more. I got enough. So it's important to learn how to cultivate that. And some of the ways, 4 ways to do that is to make connections with others around you, could learn how to contribute, learn how to, cook and eat some real good food, and learn how to cope. And these are 4 ways on how you can cultivate contentment in your life that'll help you achieve, sustain, maintain a level of thanksgiving, a level of gratefulness in your life that'll help you get over some hurdles, get through some tough times, that'll help you achieve at least some level of goodness while you're here for this short stint in this plane of existence that we know as life and that we know as earth. I put it that way because I'm starting to see a lot of memes where people always, where somebody will push back and say, they lying when they say you only live once if you have a Christian perspective or Christian worldview. So, uh, I'll say that in this plane of existence, before you take a nap, before crossing over into the next one, it's good to learn how to cultivate contentment.
Yeah, for sure. And the way I look at contentment may be slightly different, but maybe not.
Yeah,
Is just being happy regardless of your situations, right?
that's
Uh,
it. Yeah.
yeah, just blessings. Because when we think about just the base root of what blessing means is happiness, right?
Yes.
And so for me, contentment. Anytime I hear that phrase, I think about the Apostle Paul. He said, "Whether I'm a base, whether I'm abound."
That's
You
what
know,
made me say the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've learned to be content in all things. And really, for me, when I think about things like that, when I think about contentment, I think about it from the perspective of mindset, right? Regardless of what's, like you're saying, what's going on, just being grateful for the state that you're in. And really perspective changes how you view that state anyway. And
Yeah.
it's like I think it's the monk in the red Ferrari. or I know that that's one book, and there's another saying is like, it's not good or bad. It just is. And if you just look at your situation in your life, because we look at life through a limited perspective quite often. And so one situation may seem like the worst thing ever, but in hindsight, you look at it, it could be it could be the pivotal moment that your life got better, right? Or, you just don't know what this particular moment in life really means in the grand scope of the existence of your life until it's almost done, right? If you have the ability to actually, take a moment to look back and it's like, oh, at the time it felt like the worst thing ever, but man, this sure turned out for my good because this worked in for this and this and that. It taught me how to be patient. It taught, so there's all kinds of learning experiences that we can take from any given state in life. And
Yeah.
being content, being grateful, because that's what we talked about, learning to be grateful no matter what state you're in, is just a matter of just viewing the upside, so to speak, of life and perspective. Because sometimes when we think we have little, we actually have a lot. It really just depends on how you view it. And so being content, being grateful is something that you personally have to cultivate as a mindset, because it's easy to get caught up in the marketing of our society. I was talking to a young gentleman today. He's from the Congo, and he was basically like, America's a big advertisement, and I was like, yeah, it's just a big marketing thing. And so when you can get past that, when you can get past other people placing their thoughts in your life and in your heart.
So,
Go ahead.
so this was a recent conversation where he
I had
said
it
that.
today. I had it like
Oh,
literally
okay.
today, like probably 2 or 3 hours ago. Actually left my house today, so I had up
So
close.
what made him realize that America is a big marketing or big ad,
Uh,
so to speak?
because one, we were talking about corporations, we were talking about apps, we were talking about the way things are marketed toward people. And he had just recently went back home and came back. And when he was home, he realized that nobody was watching TV or on the internet the way we are.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and because in some places, depending on the location you go, it's
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
going somewhere in the country here, right?
Right.
That there's very limited,
It's spotty.
internet connection. Yeah, and he said what that actually did. He said he noticed that their time was a lot more free,
Yes.
and what he meant by that was, they weren't concerned about so many things that weren't in their world. They were free to be free from.
They were free to be in the present
Yeah, exactly. And
and to
so,
enjoy the time that they have and enjoy where they are. And that's
yeah,
one of the things that being grateful does.
yeah,
When
and,
you're
and so
content, it
yeah, the
makes you.
signal was clear, so to speak, right? A
Yeah.
lot of times we're caught up in a lot of noise, being social media and its variety of ways that it comes across. And sometimes you have to step away. You have to purposely step away. When you want to cultivate new habits or new things, you need to turn that stuff off. You need to rearrange your daily activities to free your own mind so that you can think, so that you can take time out to be grateful, so that you can take time out to, the realization of the things that you have, the people that are around you, the blessings that have been given to you, and if you don't take a step back, and you have to make it happen, because it won't happen otherwise. You have to basically force those breaks in your life. I know, years ago, used to be big on boredom, right?
Yeah.
Talking about boredom, and sometimes we have to get bored, and basically what that means is that we need to step away from the over amount of stimuli that we get, just to understand what it feels like to be normal. Get a baseline. And so, because your heart rate is probably way higher than it normally would be if you're constantly getting fed dopamine hits and all of this kind of stuff.
Man, yeah, just to speak to that, I noticed where I was going through a certain period of my life when I was driving a particular route for a company, and I would listen to this one radio show a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that when I listened to this one radio show, it kept me in a state of perpetual on edgeness, a state of perpetual excitement and anxiety and just concern. And I noticed that when I stopped listening to this particular, radio show for a while, I noticed how everything did, like your friend said, time for me slowed down, and it gave me, some breath,
Yep.
some breathing room, so to speak. And I started to realize that, things may not be going the way that, you would like them to go. But enjoy what you have while you have it, when you have it, wherever you may find yourself, and give yourself that break or pause. And that comes under the pillar of coping and finding, today, one of the things that is big in our culture as far as coping is meditation, and simply finding ways to take those moments where you can reflect, contemplate, and just consider, where you're at now, and the moment that you have now, with respect to the past and the future. So yeah, meditation and taking some time wherever you can squeeze it in to get rid of distractions and stuff. And when you brought that up, where I was talking about boredom a lot, I was going through a series of books like by Robert Greene, Mastery, The Laws of Power. I was going through that, and then I was going through Cal Newport, Deep Thought or something.
Yeah.
And it just really they really emphasized things that I was experiencing at the moment. They really clarified and brought a framework to what I was experiencing at that moment in my life. And at that particular moment in my life, I was really getting through and going through some hurdles that a lot of people go through. And that was one of the things that helped me get through that and kind of change perspective. Like you said, it's like, okay, you're going through a rough spot here in life, but take some time and look at where you're at. And when I did that, it gave me a space and a place where I could change perspectives and realize, okay, it's bad, but it's not the worst. Look at your situation and look where you're at. And then also through comparison, you brought up looking at other places, like you brought up the Congo.
Yeah.
Through comparison, you may be living in a way or living a life that a lot of people in the world aren't living. So, hey, it's not the best situation that you would like it to be, but look at where you're at. Look at where you could be as far as how bad things are.
And even sometimes the problem is we get too myopic in the way we approach stuff. What's up, Natalie?
Hey, Natalie.
We get too myopic in the way we approach our lives, and we have to be very cognizant of that. Because one of the things, for example, if you're a nerd, and I mean this in the best kind of way, if you're like a nerd in any given space, like you're so focused or tunneled in onto something that it seems like everybody is doing something in that space, right? And so now because I get this all the time. People, ask me about crypto. Is like, is it too late? Is it too this and all of that? And actually it's the same for people in different industries, right? They feel like that, when they see the success of somebody else, they think it's too late for them. And the reality most of the time, probably all the time, is if you take a step back and just look at it for what it is, it's not as bad as you make it seem in your head, right? In terms of being early in crypto, it seems like it's late. I thought it was late 7 years ago, right? But actually it was even longer than that. But then you realize, like, oh, just because of the people I'm surrounded by, it seems that way. When I take a step back and look at the total population and the amount of people that are involved in any one given arena is really very, very tiny. It's not even 1% most of the time of the total population that's involved in any given thing that you're worried about. And so you have to really think about that and look at it from the right perspective. It's like, calling places dangerous and things like that. Yeah, places can be dangerous, but when you start looking at real numbers, forget percentages, look at actual numbers, and then use those numbers in percentages of the total population, you'll realize that even the most crime-ridden places have crime rates lower than less than 2% of the population. And so it just seems so exacerbated because we're caught up in the marketing and the noise of marketing and things like this. that we allow that to mold our world perspective. And you have to be extremely careful. That's why, you got to cut off the noise. I remember this company called 37 Signals. They talk about signal versus noise. Basically the whole thing is you recognize the signal versus the noise that's surrounding the signal, right? And so that way we got to get rid of a lot of the noise in our lives. You mentioned the radio, the channel that you used to listen to. You got to cut it off. I used to be caught up. There was a certain radio station I used to listen to all the time. Every morning I would go to work. I'd be hyped up, all political stuff. And I'm like, I'm sick of these dudes. I'm sick of everybody. I'm sick of the person on this side. I'm sick of the person on this side. I hate all of it. And then you cut it off and it's like, you know what? Life is not so bad. Life is great. And so you really have to take that step back and understand that. It's so hard to see. Yeah. And that's the thing. And often I know Kevin is a news head because of his background in sociology. He's into that stuff, but me personally, I don't watch any of that stuff.
I'm just a news head because I'm just a news head. I'm naturally pointed in that direction for whatever reason. I was thinking about that.
It's just your makeup, man.
It is my makeup, and I know why it's my makeup. Just thinking about. I was thinking about purpose and calling and reason for being. So I know why. This is my makeup, and so no matter where I find myself in life, it's always going to be something at the forefront as far as my concern for where our culture is at a particular point. In time, because it's important, and it got worse when I started having a family. Yeah. It's like it's really crazy out here. It's like then the old heads is like it's always been this crazy, bro. Where you been at?
Exactly. You just young, you just catching up. Yeah.
Like how am I going to get? How's the Johnson clan going to get through all this? It's like everybody else. You put your head down, and you struggle and strive, and you get through.
It's funny. I had a conversation with a mutual friend earlier today, just talking about that. Going back in terms of you talking about that's just your makeup, and I was telling him the same thing. Is that I don't get and I had to basically course correct myself on this. It ain't like it just came naturally, but I had to get to the understanding that I don't care what somebody has done in any given thing, right? For example, if you made money, like you became a billionaire by juggling, circus balls on a unicycle, that's awesome. I don't have to do that, right? There's so much of abundance in this world that you don't have to always look for somebody else's path to follow to get your blessing, to get the abundance that you seek. There, crypto is hot because people think they'll get rich instantly, right? And it's and so it's like if you quit focusing on getting caught up in those certain things, for example, it was this particular person we were talking about, and they got just quit what they were doing and got real focused on stocks and trading and all of that kind of stuff. I was like, that's great, but if that's not your calling, you won't have the same success because you won't do what it takes to keep learning the things you need to learn, right? And so it's very important for each and every one of us to figure out that thing that resonates with us. And I'm not saying that you turn down opportunities to make money by doing certain things, but what I'm saying is if you really want to deep dive on something, if you really want to become, you talked about Robert Greene and mastery and all of those kinds of things, you have to find those things that resonate with you, that no matter what, you'll just keep focusing in on. Right, because that's really how you get mastery. You just start peeling back the layers because you're so obsessed with it to an extent. You don't always have to be obsessed, but you're just so enamored with it that regardless, you're gonna do something in that space, right? If you find your signal. And what happens with a lot of these people that we see is not that they were in a particular industry at a particular time. Sometimes that is the case, but really is that they found the signal for them. And so you must find the thing that resonates with you, that resonates with your heart, that you can just deep dive into. Or, because sometimes we want to do things to be like somebody else. and we have no drive for it. So it's just a sludge all the way through it, and we never get anywhere with it. And so that's the thing that we have to find. And not only that, sometimes you just have to find the things that you love about something. So maybe it's not that particular thing, but there's certain things within an individual, a particular industry or vertical that you can latch on to. Is like, okay, this is my thing. You know, everybody says niche down, right? And the reason you have to niche down, because you have to find that thing that you can hold on to, that you love, that you can, you know, push through and keep going with. And so if you can figure that out for yourself, then I don't care. Like, Kevin's a farm guy. He likes farms. He likes being around certain aspects of his personality that Leif will never do. It ain't gonna happen.
Leif ain't gonna be out there talking to the cows or looking at the land.
It just ain't me. At least not right now. Maybe down the road, but that ain't me. And so I'm good with that. It's
playing in dirt.
Yeah,
remember I went through a period of time where I was coming in y'all's office all dirty.
Yeah, exactly. I remember. They always had a sweep when Kevin left. No, but seriously, man, you just find the thing that resonates for you, and that's not to say that you can't, you know. And here's how you can make money. I can invest in Kevin. If I want to get into farms, but I'm not a farmer, I can invest in people that do that. Right, I can invest in Kevin's farm tools, or I can invest in the land that he wants to cultivate. There's opportunities in a variety of ways, but don't ever think you have to be doing the thing that somebody else is doing. Figure out what works for you. Figure out the path that is right for you, and sometimes people miss that.
And that speaks to what you're talking about, is cultivating a mindset of abundance versus, you know, scarcity that we're often marketed to. You know, Natalie said it's so hard to see through marketing and get real news.
Yes.
I'm just thinking about how we're always always marketed that we don't have enough, or that we aren't enough, or that we're lacking in some way, shape, or form. And that keeps, you know, a large percentage of us in a perpetual state of consuming and chasing and feeling like we're behind and feeling like we're not on schedule. You know, I posted something, I think, a couple of days ago, talking about, you know, just being grateful for where you are and just realizing that you're not on a specific schedule, and you have to learn how to let go of what, you know, our vision in our head may have been for our life at a particular point in time, where sometimes we have this timeline in our head, or we have this thing in our head that says that I should be here doing that at this particular point in time, and just realizing, hey, I'm not there. The reality is this. Let me find the joy of where I'm at while some of us pursue and chase after some of those things that we desire.
And sometimes it's funny, like, it's real big on the internet now, like coaching and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was talking with our homeboy earlier, Jeremy, about that. And I was like, you know, you realize sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, we talk about community all the time, right? It's one of the 4 C's, the 4 pillars. And
that's what we're talking about now, connecting the community. Yeah,
exactly. And so sometimes really the reason why you need somebody outside of yourself, for example, Kevin is a trainer that is getting trained, right? And it's not that Kevin doesn't know anything about training. He knows a lot about training. In fact, he may even know more about training than his trainer. But it's just sometimes it's easier for somebody to see your problem than it is for you to see it, because you're so close to it.
And somebody may bring a different perspective or bring something new that you might think about. Like, you know, you brought up my trainer. Like, my trainer, he brings to me things that I didn't think about doing, or things that I knew I needed to do, but I wouldn't force myself to do it. But he like, hey, this is what we're doing.
It's people that can unlock things in you. For example, it's easy. I'm not even gonna say it's easy, but sometimes when you give advice to people, you don't see your own advice at times, right? You can't take, because you start developing blind spots, and it happens for all of us. It's not just, just different individuals. It happens for all of us when we start developing blind spots because we're too close to our situations. You know, sometimes we're so busy, we're moving in such a fast-paced society that we don't have the time to really step back and analyze. And sometimes even when you do, you still have blind spots, right? And it takes somebody on the outside like, hey, you know what? I've noticed you've been doing this. You need to try this. It's like, okay, I tell everybody else this. Why didn't I think about it for myself? Because sometimes you just can't, because sometimes it's the abundance of information that you have that keeps you from noticing the little things that you need to correct in yourself. So it's definitely useful for everybody to an extent. Just find, you know, community, get around people that, you know, that can help you in certain aspects, and you can help them. You know, it's all about being a value add, being around people that love you. It's like, yo, bro, like you need to change this up, bro. Like this ain't working. Like, you know, your attitude is kind of stank. Don't nobody want to be around you. You may want to correct that, right? And they're saying it out of love, and because you know that you've surrounded yourself with people that care about you or that seek the best for you, you can take that in the right way. And sometimes we're in such combative situations that any criticism we just want to fight because we expect a fight. Mm-hmm. And so you need to remove yourself from those situations, and probably people need to remove themselves from you if you're the fighter, right? And so it's just all of those kinds of things that, you know, what, you know, we're talking about being grateful for sure, but definitely, you know, better yourself in ways that you can. You know, we're all in this plane of existence before we move to the next one. And the goal is
we crossed over.
Yeah, to maximize, optimize, you know, our life, you know, to get those blessings, to get those happinesses, and, you know, just
to appreciate the ones that you have at this given moment,
because it just makes being around you more tolerable, and even for yourself. Some people can't tolerate themselves, right? And
man, I was listening to Mel Robbins. She had a conversation with Dr. Carol Leaf.
Okay.
Dr. Carol Leaf wrote the book The Mental Mess, and Mel Robbins wrote the 5-second rule.
Yeah,
5-second rule. And she's got a new book out where talking about the high five habit. And, you know, you talked about people not having compassion for themselves sometimes. And the high five habit is the simple habit of high-fiving yourself every morning in the mirror. And they're in the conversation, you know, Dr. Carol Leaf is a neuroscientist or whatever that has worked in that industry for a couple of decades. And she was breaking down the science behind the results that high-fiving yourself in the mirror, how something that's simple can help lead through life-changing breakthroughs, and can help you learn how to have compassion for yourself and learn how to be self-accepting, and learn how to take that and be able to move forward in your life with great speed, and, you know, with great resolution and resolve. It help you be a better person, you know, a stronger individual.
Yeah.
Help you get through some traumas and stuff.
Yeah, I can see that. Go ahead.
And she was just breaking down how when do you most likely see people high-fiving, like say in a sports event?
Yeah,
like
when something's been accomplished. Yeah.
Right. And just talking about how we have, it's already in that action. It's neurologically programmed that we associate celebration, we associate positivity, we associate, you know, the saying or the action of "I see you, doing a good job." We associate all that is packed in to that simple habit.
Yeah,
and she
dog. Yeah.
Yeah, and just talking about how you know, that simple habit can help a lot of people learn how to accept themselves as they are. And just talking about, you know, statistically speaking, you know, they did some surveys and stuff, and just finding out that a lot of people in our culture have a hard time looking themselves in the eye, or just looking at themselves in the mirror, period. And just talk about how habitually it's built into a lot of our routine to not have confidence in ourselves, not support our own self, and just kind of where we've been hardwired to not have confidence in ourselves. So you are your biggest teammate, as you know, as they say, and that's important to learn how to support and accept yourself as you are. I noticed that's something that's growing pretty strong and big in our culture today, as I guess as a counterweight or counteraction to the culture of being constantly propagandized to or constantly marketed to, that you aren't get good enough, so you need our product, type of deal. So Natalie says, I just sent my BFF a text reminding him to high five himself today. This is great.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's a website, the High Five Challenge, and you can go there and try that. That's something I think I was going to try to cultivate as a habit, just to see what happens, to test it on myself.
You said, "Don't leave me hanging."
What are you talking about? Yeah, but like chest bump in the mirror.
Exactly. Back in your mirror. There was one thing I was thinking as you was talking, and you ended up landing on it, is the confidence factor, right? Because a lot of times, and we've talked about this, like in terms of thinking that you're going to self-sabotage any projects you start or things like that. It's that confidence that constantly gets diminished over time. And even these conversations, are a reminder to me, when we talk about coaching and stuff like that, it's like, oh, okay, I need to do this. I need to implement this with my family. I need to implement this with myself. I need to think about these kinds of things, right?
These are really coaching sessions. We should be charging
like that's what we tell everybody.
We charge you, Natalie. You need to send us payment.
Yeah, it's like these sessions are sessions for me and Kev to air our problems and overcome, right?
I think they're really just mastermind meetings.
Yeah, like seriously, and it's good because again, any way that you can boost your confidence, of course, I always think about my dude, David Goggins. He has his own way of doing that very thing, but he does it right. It seems like he's self-deprecating, but he's really not when you listen to what he's saying to himself.
Right.
Because he's like, you didn't do this. You're the hardest MF on this planet. So basically he's really boosting his own he's becoming his own drill sergeant. And that's really what he's done. And so that's why he flourishes in militaristic environments, right? And so you have to understand those things that resonate with you. I know like for my wife, we have these conversations all the time. Like, I'm like a kick you in the butt kind of person, because that's what motivates me. But she ain't that kind of person. So I have to speak her language when talking to her.
But you talking to me?
In terms of the things that resonate. Yeah, and even my own children, right? Like we have different kids that have different personalities, and I know it's the same probably in your household as well. And so you got to motivate people in a different kind of way. But all in all, it's really just building up confidence and figuring out what's going to help them, become confident in this world. Go ahead.
Speaking to what you said about motivation and just recognizing the differences amongst your children as far as personalities, you made me think of I used to. I've come to the point to where a lot of times I'll say something. I'll recommend something that you should do. And then if you don't do it, I'll just leave the result. I've learned to leave a lot of results up to life. Not all of them, but some of them up to life. Point of example is my oldest in a football game. I used to talk to him. I used to talk to him about making sure that he wears a cup, a jock strap. And I said, I used to talk to him about that, early on. And sometimes I would ask, you got it, but then sometimes you're like, no. So I said, okay, I just left it alone. And lo and behold, there was a situation where he needed it, but he didn't have it.
Yep, been there, done that.
And for a little bit, he got taken out of the game.
Yeah.
In the heat of the moment on a football field, there can be a lot of things going on in the pile,
of course,
and stuff that everybody don't see, that you in the audience you really don't see it, but at the bottom of the pile sometimes
is where
it's where it all goes eye poking, everything going on down there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the nature of the game, because that game brings out the aggression in you. It's what it's designed to do. So he's like, after that, he's like, I need to get,
he said, lesson learned. It's that time. Yeah.
But just my dad used to do me like that. He'll have a conversation with me, have conversations, and then when I get a headache, it's like, hey, I try to tell you,
yep.
I ain't gonna waste my time just hollering, and we're gonna have a conversation. If you don't take my recommendations, that's on you.
Yep, it's the life lessons. I remember like that used to be the things that they used to like emphasize over and over in martial arts. Wear your cup, wear your cup, wear your cup. Like all it takes is one time.
One time you've learned that lesson.
Oh yeah. And so like sometimes being good is a detriment. It's like, oh, I'm good. I don't ever get hit. I don't ever get killed. And lesson learned. But yeah, like just going back, just to just cultivating certain habits in your children. Because first of all, it's hard enough cultivating habits for yourself. If we're honest enough, right? And then cultivating habits for your children. Sometimes, like you said, you have to let life teach them the lesson for them. You set it up like, hey, I'll let you know. The rest is on you, right? And I always think back to speaking of martial arts, it was my one daughter. For those that don't know, I have twins, and so one of my twins, like we were doing katas, and one of them was extremely good at it, like exceptionally good, and the other one was not, right? And so they had a conversation about it, and I just let them know. I was like, well, the reason why your sister is so much better than you is because she practices and you don't.
Okay.
Right? I was like, that's just the reality of it. She didn't take it well, but after that day,
sorry, practice.
Oh yeah. Because it's like I had to let her know. I was like, hey, you falling short. And of course kids don't like to hear that, but I was careful in doing it because it's like, oh, you should be more like, it was none of that. It was just like, you can't complain about your results when you're not putting in the work. And so yeah, and so that's the understanding that that she got from it, because sometimes people, when they want to correct others, they do it in such a way that is damaging and it doesn't build confidence, right? Sometimes like when you're falling short, and it's the way you have to talk to yourself, going back to the self high fives, is you have to realize it's like, utilizing my man David Goggins as an example, he'll tell himself where he's falling short. But in the same breath, he's like, you can do better. You can do this because you're this and you're that. And he'll give himself the hype speech, that he needs to make it happen, where he turns up the gear on himself. And so sometimes like that high five, I get how it just reinforces, because it's all mental mentality, right? We're talking about being grateful, learning to be grateful, no matter what.
That's a mindset, being grateful.
You have to learn that. You have to cultivate that. You have to practice that. You have to do those things for yourself, because, we talk about coaching, when we mentioned that earlier, it's not that somebody knows more than you. It's just that they're just helping you get past yourself, because really most of the time it's just you sometimes like, or you're afraid to move forward, or you're afraid to take a step, or you don't want to be disciplined enough to do the thing, right? And so just the motivation is just, the nudge. It's not a push, it's just a nudge. It's like, okay, come on, you can do this, come on. And then so those kinds of things are helpful. And again, the community that you build around yourself, family, some family is you get in life, and other family you cultivate on your own.
Yeah.
And so you have to start cultivating a family around you. For example, like I don't ever leave my house. Like it's been like, so today was like one of those times where I specifically went somewhere where I knew I would see people I know, right? And so after that, like, an hour meeting ended up being 5 or 6 hours, because I just made a point to stop. I went down to the Julietta Market and just, some people that were there that I didn't know were there, but other people I wanted to see were there, and I got the opportunity to speak with them. And it's like just cultivating that energy, right? Cultivating, it's like, okay, these are my people. I'm all about entrepreneurship. I'm all about hustling. I'm all about these things, and being around people that care about the same thing, it just energizes you,
yeah,
and it just gets you motivated. And so that's a form of coaching. That's a form of motivation. That's a form of counseling, a form of comfort and care and that kind of stuff. So make sure that you surround yourself with people that you aspire to be, people that you love, people, all kinds of things that are going to build you up instead of tear you down.
Yeah, community. We can't speak enough about the importance of connection and community and those that you relate to. Just because that's turning out to be one of the biggest, or even one of the bigger factors when it comes to your health and your wealth,
Yes.
and your happiness. And that's one of the things that I listen to a lot of health and wellness conversations and podcasts and stuff, and that's turning out to be one of the bigger things when it comes, that the bigger factors that determine how healthy or happy you're going to be. At the time I started learning that, I was surprised. It was like your social circles, your relationships can really be even of a bigger factor than eating organically and working out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the stuff that I would think would be a big factor, it's like it's almost minuscule in comparison to your relationships and your social circles. And that was one of the things that was one of the pillars that maybe I always say health, wealth, relationships. I used to not say that all the time, but that's what really made me put that in there as far as one of the pillars that we will have to touch on as far as our framework for whatever topic we talk about. If you notice, we always come back to those four pillars.
Yeah, that's our message.
Yeah, that's the framework of our message. And whatever you want to cultivate in your life, or whatever you want to think about, or come to a deeper understanding about your life, you name the topic, you can fit it in that framework, some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, when you were talking, it made me think about the Malcolm Gladwell book. I don't even know which one at this point. He's had so many. Maybe it's Outliers. Yeah, it was Outliers when he talked about the community and how they were living to be super old. It was like an old Italian community, and they were like, why are these people living to be so old? He said, it wasn't the food that they ate.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it wasn't the environment in terms of like, that it was like healthy in terms of like the street areas and stuff, because they were living in the US. It was really about the community that they had that was so deeply embedded that there was really no stress. They lived in the community absent of stress because everybody was family of some form of fashion in the way that they interacted, not necessarily physically, like birthright family, but the way that they interacted just cultivated their health to a point where they had healthy hearts, just all of these things, because, when you reduce stress in your life, you reduce the cortisol that's produced. And that, has a negative effect on your body if you have too much of it. It reduces the disease. It was all of these things that were just packed up into great conversations, love, and just caring about one another. That superseded even the most healthiest people, right? The people that go to the gym 24/7 and that kind of stuff is really, like Kevin was talking about, it's the community. And so we always want to urge people to cultivate communities that they can flourish in, that they can grow in. Think about it like plants and soil, right? If you put the plants in the wrong environment, in the wrong soil type, it won't grow. But if you get the right soil, then you don't even have to garden. The plants will just grow. You don't have to till. You don't have to do anything. You just throw a seed down, and eventually that seed will start sprouting. And so that's really what you want to cultivate in your life. You want to make sure that you get around like the right kind of soil, become the right kind of seed, all of that kind of stuff. So that's what we care about, because at the end of the day, that's what matters: relationships. and your
That's what
relationship.
brings meaning to life.
Yeah, all relationships, your relationship with people, your relationship with God, your relationship with yourself is man, that's really the heart of all of it. And so if you don't get just that very core concept right, that principle right, then you're going to shipwreck every other area of your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, in closing, we're just having a conversation about learning how to cultivate being grateful, being content, being happy, no matter what. And, just thinking about how important it is to make sure that we have healthy connections, that we're contributing, giving to a cause or living for more than self, or just finding some way to be of service, or finding some way to, as my dad he wouldn't say this exact way, but his attitude is go make yourself useful, be useful somewhere. Whatever you're doing, if you just got a regular old job, be useful at the job. There's somebody showing up, carrying on with all this kind of foolishness.
I'm laughing because you have to understand who Kevin's dad is. He's a no nonsense kind of person.
Yeah, he's just no nonsense. Ain't got time for no foolishness.
Kevin said it in a much more jovial way.
In coping, finding ways of coping, whether we talked about, meditation, getting rid of distractions sometimes.
Yes.
Exercise, sleep, supplement, whatever it is that you can do to find a way to cope and get rid of stress and transfer that stress somewhere else.
Yes.
We are designed to have things flow through us and not come through us, not come in us and be blocked.
Yep.
Like you talked about. And then just learning how to get some good food. Good food is always going to be on my list. Contentment. If you got good food, you are content and you're satisfied, and you reach a point that says, you can weather almost anything in life on a nice, content stomach.
It's like I got shot, but man, that sandwich was the best.
That sandwich was the bomb. It makes me think of I think Henry Kissinger talked about you control the oil, you control a nation, you control the food, you control the people.
Yeah.
And just one of the tactics that was used when it comes to population control, when it comes to some of the things that the U.S. has done in the past. One of the tactics in any army is siege. Stop the flow of everything, including food.
Yeah, food and water.
Food and water. It's real simple, but you have siege. Right now in my head, I'm thinking about the coast of LA, where you have all those ships just setting off the coast. Ain't no telling what's in those containers. Food, medicine,
all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
all kinds of stuff. It's almost as if it's siege warfare, on the people. I mean, you have all those ships with all those containers just sitting there, and you're just looking at it like, man, I'm hungry. You're not gonna let them containers come over here. I don't know, Kev. How much food you got in your refrigerator, bro? Can you outlast this? I don't know. But anyway, just thinking about being grateful.
Always.
And some of the things you can do. Yep.
Always. Anyway, so we appreciate you guys. Thank you. Do the norm.
Appreciate guys on the mic. Nate, J. Kev here, having conversations about everything. We definitely appreciate you. We don't take your time that you spend with us, or your attention that you give us. We don't take it for granted. And hopefully the return on investment is worth your while, and you got a pearl of joy or a nugget of wisdom that'll help you along the way till next week when we come back on. And we
Thursday at 7. We don't hit 7.
We're focused on Thursdays at 7.
7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you know.
Eastern Standard.
All right. Peace, everybody.
Peace out.